Hi, folks. Welcome back to Green Planet, Blue Planet podcast, featuring distinctly qualified global change makers that are dedicated to creating a healthier planet, one where diversity is lived, expressed, and celebrated. My name is Julian Guderlei. I am committed to a world that allows people of all walks of life to thrive. And today's episode is part of the Design Science Studio series, a collaboration with the Buckminster Fuller Institute. And my guest is Umair Zia, who is a living systems technologist, an architect, and the founder of naturegadget.com. He's also an author of an upcoming book titled Tree Tech 50 Lessons for Life, which is a project within the Design Science Studio. And he is also the assistant professor at the National College of Arts in Lahore. So, welcome, Umair.
Thank you, Julian. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk with you. Um, for so many reasons, mainly because you're such a creative artist, and just like for those of you who are watching the video version, your background is one of your many drawings and paintings and doodles, and it something about people in this design science studio cohort that really inspires me is when people just keep creating art. There's just a nonstop kind of stream of expression that's coming out of people, and you're a shining example of that, Umair. So I'm super stoked for that, and I want to hear about your journey a bit and your approach a bit and your projects, and maybe let's start with the Design Sense Studio and what made you
Yeah.
say yes to be part of this cohort.
All right. So, Julian, I didn't know about the Design Science Studio. There is no advertisement, marketing campaign over here, and anything like that. So it started, I think, in 2015. Yeah. So I was doing my master's then, and I came across this book, Synergetics, by Sir Richard Buckminster Fuller. And I remember that I just initially I just like flipped through the book and I landed on some drawings, and in that book I landed on this page where I saw that where he had geometrically demonstrated how 1 + 1 = 4. And before that we had like heard about it and we used these kinds of metaphors all the time, but that was a geometric demonstration of that, like two triangles change their vertices and you have four, like this tetrahedron. So then I started reading up on it. And I remember that I was just talking to Amanda the other day, and I told her that I clearly remember that I used to miss my bus back home because I would get so absorbed in it, and sometimes I wouldn't even fully understand it. There was a lot of mathematics in it, but there was something very captivating in those words, even in those drawings. So I started reading up on it, and I would randomly search up on Buckminster Fuller, like just randomly search up on his projects and this. And I landed at this BFI website from where I was directed to the Design Science Studio. And I think that it wasn't like I found this great opportunity and I instantly applied. I genuinely believe that I've been preparing up for it for like last 30 years of my 20 years of my life. I'm 32 years old. So all my projects, they are like I've received a lot of criticism that look, this work is not practical, and what are you doing making these drawings and all that. But I enjoy creating something, and I love like making these unfamiliar connections between those familiar phenomena and all. So I had been preparing up for the Design Science Studio. So when it started, I met these beautiful people, Nico, Roxy, Amanda, Faith, the entire cohort. And I was like, and I realized that, these guys were they're already doing more robust projects than me, and they inspired me. And I in turn, that was like it's contagious. You reciprocate that. And I started giving in my best to the studio. And now here we are after 6 months, we've produced these great projects. They're going to be launched in March. So yeah, that's how we met. Serendipity. It's beautiful. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it pulled a lot of us in this incubator
Yeah.
developmental incubator for art, for inspiring a regenerative future. And you just said it. Maybe some people might criticize that not everything looks productive, but this is kind of the point, right? The the measurement of productivity from the old
Yes.
kind of dying paradigm. If
Hmm.
I mean, I'm going to be drastic. It's almost like an enslavement to to our
Absolutely.
species, and it
Yeah.
makes absolutely no sense in anyone's heart. And so when we bring heart and mind together, I think there needs to be space for
Yeah.
this creative expression, because it's our true essence, it's our true way of being. And it doesn't
Absolutely.
matter if you're from South America or Africa,
Yeah.
or if you're from Canada or Germany or Pakistan. It's the human spirit, right?
Absolutely. Julian, I haven't like achieved a lot. I'm not like great in any way, and I don't want to be great. I love enjoying doing little things, but I'm a living example of what you're saying. And my ideas resonate with everybody's ideas. And here I am. I have very little exposure of the world outside of the cultures, other cultures. But you're absolutely right. And I think that one of the most important, like this paradigm shifts that's happening, is in the education itself. Because when teachers start telling this to their students that look, this is like not possible or something like that, has like very long lasting effects. So education is going to change uh, dramatically, I think, in the coming days, because it's not about the teachers themselves. I listen to like some of the students sometimes, and they don't easily buy things that teachers try to tell them, and I love that. And so this is hope that the living world, as an organism, is just, it's just moving on. And whether, no matter how much people resist, the, this flow will continue. And we it's better that we become a part of it, and we align ourselves with it, and really just um, let this creativity flow. I think it's really important to envision things that are not practical, because everything is impractical at first.
Right, but then the
So
impracticality, or the rectangular kind of square box design, there's something about it that makes no sense when we look at it with a lens of kind of natural intelligence, or
yeah,
synergistic kind of natural living
yeah,
systems. And this is how you created Nature Gadget, right? With this understanding that
absolutely.
nature
Yes.
creates and integrates
Yeah.
its tools and living
Yeah. Yeah.
participants in an
Yeah.
integrated living way.
Yeah. So the idea behind it, Nature Gadget, was this: that our so we human beings have evolved um, within and without, on account of our cultures and traditions. We have evolved parallel to our understanding of nature, the natural processes. It's like a two-way thing. By understanding them differently, we rebuild ourselves, and that's how we've moved on. So we moved from this mechanical level of biomimicry towards material ecology, Scenario Oxman, and then towards synergy. And and I realized that, this idea of biomimicry, like imitating other processes in nature, is one thing, but most of the organisms in nature do not necessarily do that. They just do their own thing. They don't copy other things. So how do we like really embrace this worldview that we work with? When I say with this flow of this living earth, if we think like that and we create like that, how do we do that? And the answer for that I found in Buckminster Fuller's work, in Synergy, because uh, for me, the present understanding of living systems is that, you see, when different living processes come together in a very certain particular way, like Fuller demonstrates through his geometrical forms, when living systems come together in that particular way, then life emerges. The organism becomes alive, or organism or anything becomes alive. So I thought that, how do we make technology alive? And instead of copying a very specific organism, or that the systems of that organism, I have technologies, like we have living systems and we have technological systems. And how do we integrate those technological systems in a way that their sum is greater than those technologies alone? So that was the idea behind nature gadgets. And yeah, I've already like made 30 of them, and I have on my paper, I have resolved, I have 20 more. uh, and you will see on the website that I have like we have this literature review in research, empirical research. I have given this, I don't know what review, but I have presented examples of latest technologies and projects that have already been developed by people around the world and companies around the world. So it's like a design review for that. So I hope that there's this disconnect between how we uh, how the living systems like regenerate and recreate, and how we human beings have uh, like developed this what Mansoor Wakili calls a very linear way of thinking, this cause and effect relationship. About that, I'm sorry, just babbling on, but I'll just add one more thing to that. That cause and effect, if you think about it, that idea, the whole edifice of this empirical research and science is based on that how subtle relationships do you develop between the cause and the effect. If they're inconsistent, your research is weak, and so on. But the problem is that that is not even the case anymore, because if you keep on going back, so if you look at that first cause, then which is an infinite cause, then it has its own uh, timeless relationship with itself, um, uh, of this scientific science of science and design, an extension of that. So yeah, uh, uh, so yeah, we really need to embrace that change, I think. And uh, yeah, especially with the rise of the complexity sciences and emergence and fractals. Although this, I reckon that this is like 1960s, 70s, 60s, and 80s for the US and the more developed world. But over here, these ideas are being discussed now. We're like 60 years behind. Just so yeah. So
Well, in one way of looking at it, but that's also just assuming that around these visionary thinkers like Buckminster Fuller,
yeah,
everyone was feeling and thinking this. I think we're also aware that, including in North
yeah,
America, this was a rather small cohort of people that was just like so switched on that they understood that the natural living
yeah,
systems are where it's at. This is really, I mean, I'm going to make a very plain metaphor, but it's either ecology and finding our place in ecology, and from there designing as a keystone
yes,
species within nature's miracle, or it is the pyramid of hierarchies.
yeah,
And so,
yeah,
really, I mean, that's still been going on everywhere else in the world,
yeah.
especially in the Western world, pretty strong even since the 60s.
Hmm.
So, to ask a question there for you, maybe because we just kind of rambled into the topic of intercultural differences across the planet, um, let's bring this idea that we just ventured into with your project Nature Gadget into the context of 144
Yeah,
evolutionaries or revolutionaries meeting, and this idea that we're here to design a
yeah,
world that works for all of life. And I say this in my intros as well. It's something I'm truly committed to, but at the same time the humility that we don't
yeah,
necessarily know all the steps there. And this is part of the awakening that this world is possible, is that we don't need to know all the steps, but we
yeah,
we we humbly learn how to make one step at a time, and start integrating and reconciling with parts of the world and with parts of our society
yes,
that were maybe not online, either literally or metaphorically
yeah,
before. What's your take on that? Because you're sitting in Lahore in
yeah,
Pakistan, and in
yeah,
Punjab, and
yeah,
and
yeah,
this is a very unique perspective,
yeah,
for me at least.
yeah. Right, right. So yeah, that's a great question. So Julian, let me just quickly give you like shed like some light on where I'm coming from, and then I answer your question. That then will make more sense. So, for example, I went to this. I studied from the National College of Arts, which is like 150 years old, the oldest school in the country. It's a very small school. It was designed in the arts and crafts movement, and our teachers were craftspersons. They didn't have degrees and all that. So, but the quality of work that we have in our archives, those stencils they make, they didn't know about fractal geometry. I've actually published a paper in II Journal of Spatial Architecture plus Interior Design, a paper on Pinjrakari as a fractal craft. Pinjrakari is wood carving, and they made these patterns just by this infinite flow. They channelized that that pattern, and because we are like living in this fractal dimension, as we call it, so we are a part of that. And the quality of the work, the craft they produced, was so tremendously, it's just glorious, magnificent. And then we have this modernization and all that, and the quality is comes down, and obviously the quantity increase, emphasis shift towards quantity, mass production, and all that. And I think as we become more and more aware of this, what you're saying right now, this issue of culture, I think the emphasis is again shifting towards the quality. Um, for me, when I am asked about this capacity to make a global change, for example, I thought about it a lot. That maybe, the first thing that comes to mind is to like really launch this global initiative where we just like make this great change. But I have realized that it comes down to like your heart. Really, it converges to you, like you were saying. And in that moment, when you're really true to yourself, whether you're producing music or drawing something, in that moment, you're the best version of yourself. And that is that is how you're actually making the most significant difference.
Yeah,
So
that just totally
that is
arrived through my whole body.
wow, thank you. So that is why, Julian, I love drawing most. When I'm drawing, I'm listening to David Bowie, and I love rock and roll, and then gradually I'm now just deeply absorbed in the drawing, and I love that. Obviously, that little piece of paper is not going to change everything, but like I feel like at my best at that time. So I think we're moving towards quality again. That is a way. Yeah. So
Yeah, this is huge what you're mentioning, because really this idea that you know, planetary change and planetary evolution happens with a master plan, I think is what we have to come to terms with. That's a dead end. That's kind of what the globalized world tried to create. It's the opposite. It's about switching on the heart spaces and the creative expression of all the participants. And you know, sitting there drawing, listening to David Bowie, that's you participating in it.
Julian, I lost you there for a minute. Could you repeat your question? Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. I said it's not about having a master plan. It's about
Yeah.
being switched on in the heart space, as you said. And when you sit there and draw and you're listening to David Bowie, then you're participating in it and you're emanating that energy.
Yes.
There was
Yes.
actually no
Yes.
question so far, but if you want to say something more,
Yes.
David, go ahead. I'm going to cut this out. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I just want to add one point because this is like a key word here, master planning. So only recently, like a year back, I applied for this PhD program in urban planning, and my thesis was, the title basically was that like premise was that cities are necessarily unpredictable than how we really manage them. And I remember that when I presented that hypothesis, they were like that if cities are unpredictable, then why bother doing this in the first place? So I said that we're still like evolving. And if you look at Isfahan, and there are many other examples, Isfahan is in Iran, the Shah or the king who like envisioned that bazaar, which is like an architectural marvel today, he said that, okay, you know what, let's just make this mosque or this huge mosque complex so far away from the city. And the people said that nobody will go over there, you know why? And he had this vision that if I put that activity like so far away, then people will start coming and going, and it will develop like a path along the way. Then commercial activity will come and people will like this. So I think he had this vision for like centuries ahead of his life, and that actually happened. So what Dave Snowden calls it is putting in constraints. Instead of saying that, okay, this is my blueprint for the city, you put those constraints which change the behavior of the people, and then just let it be. And just to intervene in the system at such a deep, subtle level, you have to have very complex and very like elaborate understanding of the system. That is like that deep simplicity. So master plans are definitely not working anymore. That is so true. And Lahore, my city, is one of the oldest cities, and it's a perfect example of that. Our master plans become obsolete before they are even printed out and distributed. They become obsolete. The cities, yeah. So absolutely agree.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's there's obviously like a reality to planning, and there's obviously a reality to the masculine ability of frameworking and maybe creating
Yes.
a grid or a mental anticipation. But then there is a certain
Yeah.
piece of reality that wants to allow for this. Let's just call it chaos for the moment. This creative chaos, and when it doesn't, life
Right.
turns really square boxed.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we're
Yeah.
talking about it, is because the creative expression of an
Yeah.
artist and the design science
Yeah.
cohort and Buckminster Fuller's vision
Yeah.
is in alignment with the natural principles. And so um yeah, it's challenging because it's somewhat
Yeah.
paradoxical
Yeah.
for the old paradigms lens, but that
Yeah.
challenge is maybe a good one. I love that you mentioned cities all around the
Yeah.
world. Isfahan, I have the feeling I read about this in the novel The Physician like a decade ago or so, and I was just
Yeah.
mesmerized by this idea that there's like a city in Iran that is just so wonderful that it like escapes my
Yeah.
Western lens, you know.
Yeah.
Hey, Omer, I would love to hear about your project in the Design Science Studio. And I mentioned in the intro, it's called Tree Tech, and it's an exploration of wisdom of the trees in 50 life lessons. And so, maybe walk us through what we can picture. It's what I'm picturing it
Yeah.
like is
Yeah.
it's
Absolutely.
it's a session or a
Absolutely.
sequence of drawings with these life
So
lessons. So my question is just
yeah.
around, just maybe explain Tree Tech and the journey that you're taking people on with these 50 life lessons.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, in 2010, we went to this beautiful place called Kailash in the northern Pakistan, and it's like it's one of the oldest ancient tribes on earth. They speak they speak this language. The other one of the two languages which are not connected to any other language. The other one is Basque, spoken in Spain. So it's a very ancient tribe. And we went there, and there was this dance happening by the tribes persons, men and women and children. They were just revolving around the tree, and I participated in that, and I felt this like this centripetal force and centrifugal force. I've written down the whole account in the book in detail, but that was like an epiphany, and that was like being connected to the tree. And then I, in the last 10 years, whenever I would recall that experience, I thought about the physical construct of the tree. It's so many processes and so many technologies that are embodied in the tree. And when those technologies come together, you get this majestic experience that is greater than the physical construct of the tree itself. So I'll start looking at those technologies, start taking down notes, and then finally put them down together in like 50 life lessons. And I've illustrated those lessons in a language that is familiar to us. So, for example, uh, it'll take some time if I explain it, but I'll just try to be brief. So, for example, if you look at a tree, like the cross section of the trunk, you'll see that it has like this continuous flow of reinforcement. So, innermost part is least flexible, the outermost is most flexible, but this continuous flow that makes it makes it withstand that helps it withstand those lateral forces against wind and all that. But we human beings, we take so much pride in our architectural capacities, and we still use steel as like a reinforcement agent to the concrete, and they are very discrete two things. The concrete, it's there's compressive loads and the tensile loads. So if you draw a lesson from it, you realize that our human emotions are also very discrete. So at one time, I'm very happy with you, and the next time I found out that, look, you thought, I was a complete idiot, and you said something, and I'm like, oh, he's so bad, and there won't be like, they're discrete emotions, and they're based on the knowledge of things that we have. So if you know about someone, like you have this idea that that person, or not person, like anything is good or bad, and you have new information about that thing, that will change the way you feel about it. And that is how our emotions are also very discrete. That's not the case with the trees. So we have a lesson to learn from it, to realize that the more we know about others, about other cultures, other human beings, the less like aggressive we are, the more subtle we are emotionally towards them. And that is why trees are very wise, because they don't react at all. They have this, that is like a proof that they have greater knowledge of us, of the context around them. So they are more subtle. So that is one lesson, and then I illustrate that by making like a cross section of the tree and the reinforcements coming out of it, so that we see that, okay, that is present in this tree, but we don't see it. So I will illustrate it using the visual language that we're familiar with. And that's not my project alone. Nicholas Alcala, Nico, is the creative director of that project. Without him, it would not have been possible. And Roxy and Matt and Becca, they were the sound directors. Roxy managed the whole project. It was a complete DSS collaboration. It was such
Beautiful.
a, so
Yeah,
yeah, it's coming
let's
out in
dig in a little bit
March.
more
Yeah.
into some of the details. So I think the primary medium
Yeah.
is going to be a medieval style book. Maybe tell us a bit about that
Yeah.
primary medium and then also the digital medium in which you're working with.
Yeah. Okay. So the book will be published by Not a Cult. Daniel and Hollis are such wonderful, beautiful, beautiful people. We meet like every other week, and they are keeping track of the progress. And they're gonna use like this great paper. And every time you buy a book, like $1, 1 point something dollar will go to planting the trees, and they have this great plan. So it's going to be a really good book. And then there are going to be these blank pages in it. So if you're going to a forest, you can keep it with you. And if you see, like, if you draw a new lesson, you can like take down notes and you can draw a lot of it. So it's going to be amazing. It's coming out on October 16th by Nautical Publishers. And the other thing is Topia. Topia, we have created this environment, like a complete forest inside Topia. It will again be launched with the main event of the Design Science Studio, where you can go and you can really like immerse yourself in the experience of the book. There's the sound effect, there's the soundscape, and there's a visual content is there. You can even invite your friends over and have meetings over there. So yeah, that's the virtual experience. And if you could, sorry, Jillian, just one. If you could share this link. So we are trying to raise like enough funds to create an app also. So if you could,
Tell us
the app
about the
would
app. I
be,
was about to ask. Yeah.
yeah. So it's great. It's Nico's original idea. It's amazing. So the idea was that if you could take the app with you, if you install the app in your smartphone and you go close to the tree. So we are figuring out ways for you to be able to read the pulse of the tree and receive a lesson from it. And of course, there are going to be some other features too. So it'll be a very customized app. So yeah,
Wait, so
that's
so I want to unpack this. So that means the app will measure the heartbeat of the tree, and then as
yeah,
the user, it is your job to calm your system down through breath and
absolutely,
introspection so
absolutely,
that your heartbeat
absolutely,
matches the beat of
absolutely.
the tree's heartbeat. And then then the app reveals you one of the lessons from the
I
book.
couldn't have articulated this better.
Wow, this is wild.
Absolutely.
I
Thank
mean,
you for really articulating beautifully.
we should definitely get in touch with HeartMath around that. I'm
Yeah.
sure that they either already know how to do this or want to do this. um, the Heart
Yeah.
Math
Yeah.
Institute, way back. I think
Yeah.
over 2 years
Absolutely.
back, I interviewed them,
Okay. Great.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
that just sounds like the right way to go. I mean, you know, like a decade ago, I started hugging trees, and that was kind of funny and weird and maybe hippie to some people. And then um, nowadays, it's not just about hugging trees. It's more so about, as you're saying it there, like tuning in, like being able to feel the energy of the tree. That's really the next frontier of this like truth seeking, or this like connecting with the natural pulse. So super fascinating tree tech. I'm going to link this out as well. People can find it as online on designscience.studio/tree tech. And it's going to, as you said, launch in Topia with the rest of the Design Science Cohort
Yeah.
1. And then there's going to be a book, and then there's going to be an app. And we're going to share the link for the fundraising as well. Super exciting. Umair, I have a question or two more for you. And you kind of started out there in our episode today, and that is about changing education systems and changing ways of education. And so maybe we
Yeah.
can like loop back into this and get some more wisdom out of you, because you're an assisting professor at a university,
Yeah.
or an arts college. And um, you know, if you were to change the way education is run, if you were to just like make it up with what you've observed, what
Yeah.
elements would you add? Like, what would you do? What
Yeah.
would you include into the education systems?
Yeah. Yeah. So first of all, my vision would be to move the action, the initiative away from the administration and faculty and towards the students. That would be my vision. And for that, the first thing I would do would be to um, design sort of a framework or a template where uh, the teachers are trained to get the best version out of the students. And that's how I found my mentor, Irfan Ghanisa. He's still alive, and I meet him regularly. That's what he did. He was very good at it. He didn't have a PhD or anything. He was an architect, but he used to have such a broad spectrum of reading. So whenever students would go up to them, he would ask them as many questions as he could. And then he would actually go back to his office and read as many things as he could and find out as many things as possible and then share them with the students. So the idea is that the teachers really need to like go back a little and give the students a space, and our job is to guide them. In this part of the world, one of the things that I have been struggling with is very unfortunate is that I have also sensed a certain level of insecurity in the faculty generally that uh, there comes a point when, look, the idea is that the teachers really propel their students forward and beyond where they are of themselves. So when you have this idea that I have to create 10 visionaries, 20, 100 visionaries, then you're like, you are very in a very humble position, and you have to do a lot of work to help them, guide them, navigate through their projects. So that is the first thing I would like to change, because presently we have these uniforms and the teacher knows everything, and that is not working. And I realized that I don't really need to like resist that, because the change is inevitable, and I see it in the questions the students are asked and this disconnect. So it's inevitable. So the best thing we can do is that we synchronize ourselves with the change and uh, get the best version. And it's also difficult because if you have 10 students who have 10 different projects, then you have to do 10 times more work if you want to guide them. And if you know only one thing, that I know that, look, if I start telling all the students to make their projects manually and start drawing, well, no, maybe one of the students like drawing, but the other ones want to play with other. One more problem that we've seen is that we start idealizing our like the people we look up to, and it's not like that. We are all humans, and Our mentors used to be very human too. So they would sit in a cafeteria, and so when you're very humble and you don't have these insecurities that, look, I'm this doctor and I have to come to class and everybody has to, when you don't have those insecurities, then the emphasis shifts the towards what you're saying. And if it makes sense to any student or anyone for that matter, then that is more effective and significant. So yeah, so the other thing was just like, that's what I would do. I would shift this sense of responsibility, so this action and initiative away from the teachers and towards the students, so that teachers realize that they need to get the best version of the students, and for that they'll have to have a very broad spectrum of interests, interdisciplinary interests.
This is exciting. I love the examples you brought up. And I have two more questions. And so one of them is for
Yeah,
anyone who is inspired listening to our episode today to get closer to the Science Studio and maybe apply for a future cohort. What's your suggestion, your inspiration, your advice
yeah.
on that side?
Look, wow. So I wish the Design Science Studio had the resources and the capacity to admit everyone, like all over the world. But for me, this was the simply the best learning experience of my academic career, even like learning career. Because you asked me what would I change. I would I would like try to do something like this, where we are all doing what we love to do, and we are like really helping each other out and collaborating. And this is another change that is happening, moving away from competition towards collaboration. And we're now realizing, and that's how nature works, that by collaboration you increase your own productivity as well. So it's this myth that if you succeed and from the other people and you're the winner, then you have like you're successful. No, that's a
Yeah,
myth.
that's
And it's
definitely
just
a shitty
so
myth. I'm with you on that one.
yeah. So yeah, just apply, just meet these beautiful people, and this is just yeah,
Yeah, big time. I'll
do
copy
do
that.
your
Double
thing.
tap on what Umair just said. Last question for you today, Umair, is if we're gonna go into, I want to hear a visionary answer from your heart space. Okay, so get ready for this. If we're zooming out
Yeah.
into the future,
Okay.
7 generations, and we're becoming aware that we're
Yeah.
ancestors of the future, what is the dream,
Yeah.
the vision, the yeah, like your prayer for our species, for this planet, t- to
Julian.
connect in 7 generations.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Julian, that is. I'm glad that you saved this question for for the last spot. See, there is a lot of suffering in the world, and I've been doing this price only because of the support from my wife and my family, and I had like enough money to get by and do these things. And and especially in this the you see the poverty and the hunger in the world. um, if you're hungry, then your mind is, you cannot possibly think about um, like maybe you can. I mean, I can't say that. Buckminster Fuller is an example himself. He when he like really broke down all those barriers, and he wasn't like on top of the world. So, but my vision is that everybody in the world has enough food and enough money to fulfill their basic needs. That's my vision. That's all I hope that, because after that, anything beyond that is just their enabling. By providing everyone those basic things, you enable them to become the best version of themselves. So this is one constraint that really that is stopping a lot of people in the world from achieving their full potential. So I think again, quoting Dave Snowden, that would be the enabling constraint. And Fuller also, you see, when when Fuller suggests that we need to move away from weaponry and towards livingry, and technology has a pivotal role in this. What I understand from this is not that we create technology directly that makes that happen. It is that perspective. He realized that at this point we will have understood the living systems in a way that we will be creating technology that enables that. So it is all like connected, and nature gadgets is like my experiment with that. How can I achieve that? So it is all connected, and that technology is definitely then it's not just gadgets and products. It is a worldview, how we think. And it could be something very simple as a pen maybe, but the way the resources have been channelized towards it, the creative energy, all of this is its impact is much larger than its physical existence. So yeah, so I hope that in 7 generations we have at least achieved at least that everybody's able to
Beautiful.
do what they love to do.
Yeah, let that sink in, and
Yeah,
may it be
thank you.
so. I'm right there with you, Umair. This was fun. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for doing the work you're doing in the work, and just
Thank you.
keep on expressing
Thank you so
yourself,
much.
man. This is the gift that we're all looking for in each other.
Thank you so much, Julian. Thank you, everyone who's listening to this. I'm so deeply grateful to Julian. We had a little conversation before. I hope we meet again. Thank you so much. Deeply humble.